Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here with Gents. Hope that you guys are doing well. Today I want to talk to you about a new iris fragrance that I think can go head to head with some of the best ones in the designer realm that have ever been released. So we're talking about the new Narciso Rodriguez For Him Bleu Noir Parfum. So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys the presentation of the fragrance. I'll break it down, let you know what I think about it, let you know how it stacks up against the big boys, the heavy hitters, and I'll let you know why this is one of my favorite pickups over the last couple months. So let's jump into it. All right, guys, let's kick it off with the presentation like always. Here we got the box, not a lot going on. Got the name of the house, name of the fragrance, the size, the concentration, all your usual info right there on the front. Nothing up top. On the side, it says that it's a mysterious and audacious fragrance with iris notes, sensual musk, and addictive wood. On the back, you've got the ingredient information and a little QR code. And then on the bottom, you'll find your batch code punched into the box, which is 1826B9. And here we have the bottle. Really like the look of it. Very clean, very classy. I do kind of dig the older style Narciso Rodriguez bottles where they had the inside of the bottle painted. Thought that was a pretty cool look, but this looks nice too. Name of the fragrance, name of the house, the concentration, all right there on the front. The cap does click into place, and it has kind of a rubber matte feel to it, the cap does. On the bottom of the bottle, you'll find your badge code etched into the glass. And as always, I'll go ahead and blast out a couple sprays for you guys here. Really nice atomizer, actually, really good. So Narciso Rodriguez, not really a house that gets a ton of hype. They get a lot of love in small circles, small pockets of the fragrance community. People who will say, oh, Narciso Rodriguez is criminally overlooked. But as far as the mainstream goes, most people don't pay too much attention to them. And that is kind of a bummer because I am one of the people that thinks Narciso Rodriguez puts out quality fragrances and that they are, for the most part, overlooked. Now, one thing that Narciso Rodriguez has been doing is they've been moving basically all of their men's fragrances, all of their attention into the Bleu Noir line, which kind of sucks in a way. I say that because this, the original Narciso Rodriguez For Him, is no more. So these fragrances, the original For Him Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum, they remind a lot of people of petrichor, like the smell of asphalt after it's rained. So a lot of people will say Narciso Rodriguez For Him, this one, is one of, if not the best rainy day fragrances that's ever been made. Especially when we're talking about designer fragrances. It had quite a unique scent profile, but it never really caught on, seems like, and so it got axed. And then they funneled all of their attention into the Bleu Noir line. Yeah, a fragrance line with a blue aesthetic. Who would have guessed? And there are multiple versions of Bleu Noir at this point, from Eau de Toilette Extremes to Eau de Parfums to Parfums. And this one, the Parfum, is the newest of the bunch. So first off, I would say Bleu Noir Parfum doesn't really have very much to do with the previous Bleu Noir fragrances. So this is one of those times where you're getting a flanker and the flanker doesn't tie in super closely with the fragrances that came before it. Not at all how it smells, but kind of like 1 Million Parfum. When you smell 1 Million Parfum, it's not really that close to 1 million, but it's still part of the line. That's what Bleu Noir Parfum is in this one. It's part of the line, but is it a parfum richer version of Bleu Noir? No, not at all. This fragrance actually has more in common with Valentino Uomo Intense or Dior Homme Intense than it does Bleu Noir Eau de Toilette or Eau de Toilette Extreme. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, yeah, iris. Iris is the name of the game here. It's the focal point. So how does this smell? How does it come across? When you first spray this on, it smells friggin' awesome. I love it. It's got just the right amount of sweetness. There's citrus in there, bergamot, mandarin orange, but really not a whole lot of it. It's not too much of a focal point, and that citrus is gone like that. Instead, you have a fresh green but still sweet cardamom note that takes center stage in the opening, along with the iris, which is officially a mid note, but you pick it up right away. So the iris in here, as I've harped on a couple times already, is similar to the iris you're gonna find in Valentino Uomo Intense or Dior Homme Intense, but here it's a little bit fresher. and also to me a little bit more powdery. And that's obviously not to say that the Iris and Valentino Uomo Intense or Dior Homme Intense is not powdery. They do have a powdery feel to them, but this one is more so leaning into that powdery side. I'd say it's a little bit less makeup-y, less lipsticky, if you want to call it that, compared to the Iris and Valentino Uomo Intense or Dior Homme Intense, but definitely a little more powdery. And that powder does come out more as the fragrance dries down and the Iris settles down and some of that sweetness from the opening dissipates. And as alluded to on the box here, you have a sensual musk, which is a clean white musk, kind of settles in underneath that Iris and does lead or lend a little bit more to that powder. As it dries down, you've got a faint leather note that comes out, which is gonna tie the fragrance in a little bit more with Valentino Uomo Intense. You've got a little additional warmth, a little touch of sweetness from Tonka, and then a bunch of woody notes in the base as well. And the woodiness in the base to me makes itself known as kind of a fresh, modern woodiness, kind of an ambroxany tinge to it. Smells super pleasant, don't get me wrong. Just letting you know how it comes across. So Bleu Noir Parfum slots in toward the upper echelon of those Iris-based designer fragrances. Again, Valentino Uomo Intense, Dior Homme Intense, and Gentleman Eau de Parfum. The quality here is good enough that it can compete with those fragrances and in some situations actually win out over those fragrances. Because for the longest time internally, I've kind of stacked up other designer Iris fragrances against those three. And I've said, hey, can this hang with Dior Homme Intense? Can it hang with Gentleman Eau de Parfum, with Uomo Intense? Can it? And most of the time the answer is no. But here, the answer is yes. I guess if you wanted to kind of dumb it down a little bit, you could think of the Iris in here as the Iris and Valentino Uomo Intense if it was done by Prada, something like that. Kind of a melding, a meeting of those two worlds, of the powdery side and also that makeup-y side, just kind of put together. Now, even though this is a parfum and it has Tonka and all those woody notes and leather, it still does come across as a fresher take on that style of Iris as compared to the three scents that I've mentioned so far in this video going up against it. It's fresher than those, and so for some people that's gonna mean it's more versatile. I would say in terms of seasons here, you're looking at probably spring, fall, and winter. Not fresh enough for summer. It's definitely gonna come across too heavy for that. I would say, high heat situations, you want to go with something else. So if we're talking like late spring or early fall, maybe you want to go with something else. But I'd say in general, spring, fall, winter. And as far as daytime or nighttime use, either one doesn't really lean too far in one direction or the other for me. In terms of performance, longevity wise, above average for me, about 7 to 8 hours off my skin. So that's pretty good. Nothing to complain about. In terms of projection, more average, it's pretty good initially. Then it sits a little bit closer to the skin. Compared to the other three fragrances that I keep comparing this one to, it's the lowest in terms of projection. Overall, I'd say when you factor everything together, the projection, the longevity, the performance is above average. Now, this one I got from fragrancebuy.ca. As of when I'm filming this video, I think they're sold out, but I'll try to link in the description where you can buy this one. I'll see if I can find it somewhere. Oh, and Joma Shop, if you shop there, usually go Gents 8, save yourself $8 off any order over 110. So a little bit of extra money off, so use that whenever you shop there. So as I said at the beginning of the video, Bleu Noir Parfum, I really dig. Now, the first time I smelled it, I knew I was gonna like it just because of the style of Iris it is, and it's done really well. The quality is there. It's well put together. Nothing sticks out like a sore thumb. I knew I would like it. And as I've worn it more, I like it more. Initially, that opening seemed like it was gone instantaneously, and then it kind of settled into this kind of linearity where it didn't change very much. But in additional wearings, I've keyed in on that nice sweetness that I mentioned in the opening where it really leads you into the Iris as the fragrance settles down, and I think it smells just absolutely fantastic. I like the little bit of a change here compared to the other three heavy hitters that I mentioned ad nauseum. I like that it's a little bit more powdery, so it doesn't become just, completely redundant when you compare it to one of the other fragrances. I'd say the one it's closest to, most similar to, is probably Valentino Uomo Intense, just because of that similarity as it dries down with the Tonka and the leather mixing together with the iris, but it's still doing its own thing. It's a modern take on iris, and actually we're seeing a lot of that right now. Iris is very hot, you know, it's like all these different brands are working iris into different fragrances, but I'm okay with it because I love the note. It's almost like the new oud or something. You know, everybody had to have an oud fragrance for a time. Now everybody has to have an iris fragrance. It is what it is, I guess. But I would think if you're a fan of designer iris fragrances, you've got to check this out. It is one of the best ones on the market. Absolutely fantastic. Great stuff. So Narciso Rodriguez Bleu Noir Parfum, big fan of this. Smells great. But do keep in mind, as I mentioned before, it's really got nothing to do with Bleu Noir. There's not a big similarity there. If you look at the note breakdowns, it's kind of similar to some of the other Bleu Noir fragrances. They've got a lot of shared notes, but in principle, what they're doing with this is quite different compared to the others that came out before it. And of course, it's got nothing to do with this one. This stuff was really nice. I think it appealed more to, you know, collectors or fragrance community type people who really like fragrances that are different. But man, I'm gonna miss this stuff. I didn't even realize that it was basically going away until it was too late. You know, I went to look for it and it was just basically gone everywhere. Thankfully, I've got my bottle, but all right, getting sidetracked. Narciso Rodriguez Bleu Noir Parfum. If you've smelled it, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Let me know how you think it stacks up against the other big iris fragrances out there. And also just let me know in general what you think about this new trend of iris fragrances being cool again. Dior is going away from iris and everybody else is going into iris. I don't know if that means Dior is way ahead of everybody else, or if Dior waited around and then finally changed out of iris when it was becoming popular again. I'm not sure. All right, guys, it's gonna do it for me. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for your support. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.